we got to do some NFL stuff. And yesterday, what a game. The Bills, the Chiefs, it promised to be good and exciting, and it was. Buffalo holds on for a 20-17 victory that they needed badly to keep their playoff hopes alive. And the Chiefs, just unlike anything we've seen from them in the Patrick Mahomes era, after the bye week, struggling mightily, 1-3 now after the bye, 2-4 in their last 6 games. And they are frustrated. And last night, of course, it wasn't just because they lost, but how they lost. And for those that might have been sleeping under a rock, you don't know, they're marching late in the game, about a minute left. They score a touchdown on a tremendous play. Travis Kelce catches a deep pass from Patrick Mahomes. Kelce's about to get tackled, and he laterals the ball, just throws a great spiral pass across the field to Kadarius Toney, who runs it in from about 20 yards out. You think it's the game, but oh no, there was a flag, and Kadarius Toney was offsides, and boy was he. He was definitely offsides. And the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, we've never seen him like this. He lost it on the refs, and Andy Reid as well. But Mahomes really went crazy. Here he is after the game.
To happen on a flag change the outcome of a game in that moment. I mean, I've played 7 years, never had offensive offsides called. I mean, that's elementary school. We talk about. I mean, you point to the ref, do all that different type of stuff, and it doesn't get called. And if it does, they warn you, and there was no warning throughout the entire game. And then you wait till there's a minute left in the game to make a call like that. It's just tough, man. I mean, it's lost for words, man. It's tough because regardless if we win or lose, man, just for it to end with another game and we're talking about the refs, man, it's just not what we want for the NFL and for football.
He was much calmer there, Martin, than at the end of the game and on the field. But I will – he's wrong. We all know that, and we'll get to that. But I will give him this, Mahomes. He is consistent. Like if you remember a week ago when Marquez Valdez-Scantling – had a chance for a potentially game-tying pass, and Mahomes, threw him the pass, and it was a clear pass interference when the Chiefs were playing the Green Bay Packers, and it was not called. It wasn't close. It wasn't one of those. Oh, maybe that's no. It was definitely pass interference. Wasn't called, and Mahomes didn't complain. Neither did Reid, but Mahomes said, "Hey, I don't like the." Refs settling a game. I'd rather have the players do it on the field, and I'm never looking for a flag in that instance. And so I'll give him credit. I don't think, Martin, that he is complaining from the place of being a sore loser. I think he's complaining because it seems like from his history and from what he said last week, he just fundamentally disagrees with the referees really impacting the game and the outcome. I think he'd rather have the players do it. And so I'll give him credit for being consistent, but he is wrong. I mean, Toney was darn near in the Buffalo Bills secondary. I mean, that was ridiculous how he was lined up. What were your thoughts on it?
I think it absolutely is a sore loser mentality right here. The idea that Patrick Mahomes had to be restrained on the sidelines for going after the referees is embarrassing. And what Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes did in their press conference after the game, also embarrassing. The difference between the Valdez-Scantling call and the Kadarius Toney one is the refs missed the call with Valdez-Scantling, right? They missed it. If they had
it still was clearly a pass interference.
It was. And if
a lot of people would have went there, and I don't know that people, Mahomes, we rarely see players go that, the way he was acting on the sideline.
Well, that's because
I do think, Martin, a lot of people would have went to the press conference and been like, come on. And I'll be honest, Mahomes would have been fully within his rights last week to go to the press conference and be like, look, we work our tails off. We work our tails off, and so do the Packers, so do all the teams, but we work too hard for some officials to miss a clear call like that and cost us a chance to win the game. But then, I digress.
But then on last night, when the referees didn't miss a clear offsides, everybody's losing their minds. Like, I can't get mad at a referee for throwing a flag when there's a penalty. Like, I just can't get mad at that. That's what his job is.
I agree.
I've never been a fan of you can't call that at this time in the game, blah, 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 blah. No, yes, you can. Because ultimately, to me, the players do decide what happens on the field. That was a pass interference against Scantling. Should have been a flag. Should have been Chiefs ball. Right there. That's the referee messing up. Just like Kadarius Toney was standing on damn near on the same line as Von Miller, right? Von Miller, who plays defense, mind you, across the neutral zone. He's lined up off sides. It's evident to everybody. If you look at it, I don't know how he's.
There's no way. I mean, it was ridiculous.
There's no excuse besides line up correctly. That's the only thing you can be angry about in this scenario to me. It doesn't even seem to be terribly controversial to me, the idea that the referee threw the flag. And so to see Mahomes and Andy Reid and all these guys who have not lost a lot in the last, 5-6 years, they have lost a handful of games, max. To see them react that way after dropping 2 in a row, to me, it's just utterly embarrassing to come after the refs the way that they did, when in the reality of the situation is this is the second game, if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, that you probably feel that Kadarius Toney cost you. He cost you week one, dropping the ball.
He definitely cost you.
And he lines up offsides again here, and that cost them the game, right?
Here's the only thing I'll say, and I agree with you. But in this changed probably the way a lot of people view it. I don't think anybody, in fact, the way the Chiefs even reacted, they clearly know that it was a penalty. All right, and as you said, it's hard to get mad at the officials for calling a clear penalty. But Dan Orlovsky from ESPN, obviously a former quarterback himself in the league, he said he went, and you may have seen it, Martin.
Sure.
He went, did you see it?
I did.
He went back throughout the entire tape of the game and showed how Kadarius Toney was offsides essentially the same way he was on that last play 4 or 5 times throughout the game. And that, so again, not defending Toney, but it's a bit odd. It's like, you've been letting the players in basketball play all night, letting them get physical. And then on the last play of the game, somebody hits a game winner and you call kind of a ticky-tack foul away from the ball. I get that, but look, it was a penalty.
The problem I had with Orlovsky's thing is it doesn't prove what he thinks it does, right? The idea, because you can show me 5 other instances in the game in which Toney was lined up incorrectly, means it was lined up incorrectly a whole lot. They should have been flagged more, right? And what it also does is, I've seen a video now of somebody from the stands where you see Toney motioning to the side judge, and he doesn't look to, he looks at the side judge, motions, and is right back in his stance, doesn't check, doesn't adjust his stance, doesn't do anything. Right? So if you're but it doesn't excuse the fact, and also
wrong is wrong. It's like saying, well, I always speed on this road.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Now you're ticketing me?
If you're late to work every day by 10 minutes, right? On the 17th day that you're late to work, and they're like, yo, you're late, this is a problem. You can't be like, well, I was late the last 17 times and nobody cared. There's a time you're supposed to be there. There's a place where Toney's supposed to be, right? But it also doesn't, how do we know, based off Orlovsky's film breakdown, right, or based off the All-22, that there was not the refs and the coaches talk all the time? There could have easily have been a moment in which the referees did tell Andy Reid, hey, your guys are lining up off sides. This is your warning. Maybe it didn't happen in that play, in that moment, but the idea that it's the ref's responsibility to tell you where to line up is something that I just can't square. You're a professional football player. It's your 4th year in the league, and people are having to tell you need to check with me. No, it's not. And it really it's a microcosm of something I know that you agree agree with, and the Chiefs with this wide receiver core is kind of wasting Mahomes' time at this period because here's the thing.
Well,
the Giants moved on for Kadarius Toney because he was not a high IQ player.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up because we're going to continue this next. I got something to say about Patrick Mahomes' reaction as well. Martin, we didn't even get to this. There's so many different angles to discuss this Kansas City Chiefs thing from. And I really want to see what you think of this. My ultimate take on the way Patrick Mahomes responded yesterday was that the anger and the frustration that he had towards the referees, he should have toward his receivers this week. Like, he needs to go off on those dudes. And look, I will preface it with this. Maybe he is behind closed doors. I don't think so. I don't think that's his demeanor. I'm not talking about at press conferences. I like the fact that he takes the hits at the press conference, right? I like the fact that when he throws it to MVS and MVS drops it, which would have been a touchdown, he says, hey, I could have thrown it a foot short or something. Like, we all know that's BS. But I like that he takes that route in the press conferences. But behind the scenes at practice, he needs to go into the receiver room and go off on those dudes. We talk with Coach Eric Mangini all the time. He's on First Things First. He was an assistant coach in New England when Brady was there early in his career. He said Tom Brady did that. Tom Brady held his receivers to an incredibly high standard. And if you didn't reach it, if you weren't your best, if you weren't putting in hard work, then he was going to go off on you, or you were just going to get the cold shoulder at some point. Like, you were going to know you were on his bad side.
He was not going to throw you the ball.
Right. You weren't going to get the rock.
Same thing with Aaron Rodgers, too.
Yeah. Now, and I don't like the way Rodgers, because Rodgers does it too publicly.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But I'm fine with the nice guy in the press. But when it comes to behind the scenes, those dudes need a foot up their butt, their backside, because they clearly, look, he has the pedigree, Martin, obviously. And I bet you every receiver on that team wants nothing more than to please Patrick Mahomes, right? He's the best quarterback some of us, feel like we've ever seen. And so I don't think that's his personality. But he needs to let these dudes know, y'all not cutting it. And I think that's where they miss Eric Bieniemy. Everybody's, with people now starting to say, well, is Bieniemy the fact that he's not there the issue? He wasn't calling plays. But I think what he was the bad cop. And Andy Reid is a good cop. Mahomes seems like he's a good cop. They needed somebody that was a bad cop. And now these same receivers, all they missing is Juju Smith-Schuster, who's a professional receiver, a legit professional receiver, maybe a number 3 at this point. At one point, maybe a number 2. So I'm not saying he's not very good, but he's not all that. And last year, he wasn't all that. But I think Bieniemy had his foot on those dudes and made sure they were the best they could be. And they actually should be better this year because most of them were here a year ago, and you would have expected some improvement. So I think that's what Mahomes needs to do, Martin, is go off on these cats and stop like babying them or taking all the blame and start jumping on these dudes like, man, y'all need to step up. We about winning Super Bowls here. The defense is better than it's ever been here. I'm the same. Well, he ain't even got to say it like I'm doing my thing because we know what he is. But Travis is doing his thing. Isaiah Pacheco is running like a monster. And y'all can't catch the freaking ball. Y'all don't know the freaking plays. Come on.
I think at this point, you know what? I think he needs to have that conversation, but probably needs to go upstairs to GM Brett Veach's office instead. Look,
amen.
Amen. I just started working out back in October, right? I just started getting back into it after COVID, right? In October. Somebody goes in there and tells me to bench press 600 pounds. I can't do it. No matter how much yelling you do, no matter how much screaming you do, I don't have the physical ability to do it. Right now, you taking this cast of characters. Sky Moore is a bust. You missed early in the draft with him. Kadarius Toney he's on his second team as a first-round pick in his fourth year. All right, that tells you all you need to know.
And they traded for a third-round pick. Right?
Okay, like Travis Kelce is the only dependable receiving option on this team. And that's the biggest issue that you have right now. And sure, I know they won a Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill, but a guy named Marcus Kemp had 5 catches for 85 yards in the AFC Championship game last year. Right. You can't get by on smoke and mirrors for too long, and that's what ended up happening. The bill is coming due on the idea that
absolutely right.
that you let go of guys like Tyreek Hill. You moved on from certain players like Kareem
Mahomes
Hunt.
Took less money.
So the bill's coming due. So I'll go have a conversation, but I'm having it with my GM because we got all type of dogs on the back end right now. Defensively, we got a ton of good players, young players. Offensively, you got to give me something to work with, brother.
I agree. He should talk to them both. I totally agree because they're taking him for granted. We saw it happen with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Hence, 1 Super Bowl. Now, obviously, Mahomes already crossed that. Has got 2. But look, people mocked me. You know this, Martin. About a month ago, I said, when they talked about Tyreek Hill trade, and I said, well, I don't know that they won that trade. Yeah, they won it last year, and they got that 1 ring. But going forward, if they may have lost that deal. And here's my thing. You've got arguably the best quarterback ever. Why don't you maximize him with one of the greatest receivers ever? The show could have been fantastic. And y'all said, you know what? We don't have to win that way. Let's go. Let's win boring. Let's just win with defense. And that's fine. Winning is winning. But you are taking Patrick Mahomes for granted. And Brett Veach, Martin, you said it right, needs to be called on the carpet just like those sorry receivers up in Kansas City.